What is happening, Cigars Daily Nation? Today is truly an amazing day at the Cigars Daily HQ. Because when it rains, it pours. You know this. When good things happen, sometimes they happen a lot. When bad things happen, they almost definitely happen a lot. But today at the HQ, there's a ton of amazing stuff going on. Hell, we got the Echo Hail Daily Edition from Espinosa Cigars. We got the Blackbird Cigars Daily Edition of the Cactus Ren, the new box press blend in. I even got the Endure. All the cigars that I have been looking forward to this year have come in now. Oh my gosh, what's that? Is it a box of Espinosa Knuckle Sandwich number 57s? I would say that's exactly what it is. But truth be told, well, I want to go over all these cigars with you. I want to tell you about each and every one of them. But I have something very important to do with you. And that is to review this. The Newair X Boveda Humidor. This is like a 500 count electric humidor. This is the one where Newair has teamed up with Boveda to create a better solution for cigar storage. And now what I'm going to do is take this in and unbox it and see how good this thing really does at taking care of the precious cigar collection. Truth be told, right now, that's what's happening behind me. When you get tens of thousands of cigars in at one time, you have to count them very carefully and check them in. And I used 2 extra people and a computer to do that, and then rooms of humidors, big humidified rooms. But for the home collection, for most people, something like the Newair X Boveda should do a good job. But just exactly how good of a job will it do? Are the pros more than the cons, or do the cons drastically outweigh the pros? The only way to find out is to take the thing out of this box and test the hell out of it. So let's dive right in. A first sort of big pro about this unit is that it is well packaged. Like out the gate here, what we've got on the top, the support for the edges of the box, and on the bottom, the things like strappy tied shut. I don't know what these are called, but this is like solid. There's one thing I see too much of online. It's people who got a humidor and it showed up and the door is shattered, or the thing's broken open, the box is destroyed. And so this right here already gives good confidence that the unit will be in good shape when I get it open. I also got this. Right as soon as I got the lid off the bottom, I could tell that this is just going to lift right off. This is a big deal. So you don't want to drop the damn thing when you're opening it. So as you take it out of the box, like this just comes right off, like a big TV or a fridge or something like that. We are fully unboxed and ready to start diving in. Before we even open this thing, I want to take you through a couple of things in the paperwork that stood out to me as impressive. These are both big pros. The first one is this blue piece of paper that says, "Stop, please read." This is just information about how to get in touch with Newair in case you run into any issues with the humidor. This has actually been a pain point I've heard no small thing about. See, the way that it seems to go is a lot of people get these things from different manufacturers of humidors online, and then when they can't figure them out or the thing doesn't work right, they seem to want to call their favorite cigar shop to ask questions to the customer service people there about how these work. The only problem is people's favorite cigar shop doesn't manufacture these, and so they don't really know as well as the company that made it. And so I really appreciate the fact that Newair put this in there. There's a phone number and an email, and hell, in a digital world, if you could talk to a human being on the phone, you're doing pretty dang good. So that one is a major props to Newair. The second one is the user guide here, which is probably the most well laid out, clearly written user guide that I've seen anywhere. And I flipped right to the page that talks about humidity control using Boveda packs for this. This is yet another change to the way that these things are set up. Used to be that seasoning a humidor meant basically sopping it down with a bunch of distilled water. Then, when they started making these electric humidors, you wanted to place a dish of water inside and let the humidity rise to 5% above where you're actually going to keep it, and then put your cigars inside and it will probably do what you want it to do. It'll probably settle out. And that seemed to work pretty well. But the instructions here for the Boveda one are remarkably different. The first thing has to do with what kind of pack to use. It tells you out of the box, open this up before you really do much else with it. They want you to put in specifically a 69% 320 gram Boveda. Comes in what looks like a cardboard box like this. They do tell you to take off, they call it the overwrap. It's just a cellophane on the outside of the box, so I'll crack one of these open. This bad boy here is now officially activated. So this Boveda is humidifying the air around it, and when it's inside of that plastic thingy, it is not. They want you to put this inside first thing. And it does say in the instructions to place one of these Boveda packs into each of the Boveda pack holders, which is, I think, for aficionados, sort of a welcome thing. If there's one thing that's always been a weakness of other humidors out there, it's that where really do you put the Boveda? Like, people, if they want to use these packs, they kind of shove them in the corner or they stack them up against the side. But these actually have 3 independent Boveda holding, like, Spanish cedar mechanisms that come with them. So you can take your 320 gram and slide it right in. And then, once again, slide it right in. It actually even locks the pack in there when you put it inside, so the thing's not going to fall out. I appreciate that. Now, with one of these sitting on every row of the top 3 shelves here, you've got 960 grams of Boveda, giving you excellent control over humidity without taking up a lot of real estate where you're going to put cigars. I consider this to be a big pro. They've made space utilization very easy, very convenient, and I think this is like a well thought out way of doing it at the very least. Now, the only thing I don't see in this instruction book is like what to do once you've done that. Like, we put your Boveda packs in there, presumably based on what I'm reading here, they just want you to put cigars inside of it and close the thing. Like, and based on how well these seal with the refrigerated doors, that would seem to make sense. If you're using a 69 or 65% pack, you put the 3 packs in there, you put the cigars in there, you close the door, and you're off to the races. It shouldn't need a lot of time for this to like acclimate and absorb humidity, although it does tend to be a little bit different depending on how dry it is where you live or how moist it is where you live. Or like what's your altitude or how long the thing has been out of the box. The good news is this does give you information. There is a source in here right under the humidification tips for where you can go to find an FAQ that will answer more questions, just like how long do I wait before I put cigars in. A couple other things I just want to make sure to mention about this is that it specifically states in here that this is not designed to be like an installed unit that will be installed under a kitchen counter or something like that. It says to give it like 4 inches of space on the top, on the sides, and maybe on the back. So I think you can put it underneath the cabinet, but you don't want to like install it and then put flashing around the sides and seal the thing in to the point where it can't get any access to air. Like, it is a refrigerator. It does have to run a motor and stuff like that. So you have to have a little bit of margin space around the thing for it to function correctly. Now I want to take you inside to show you some of the new novel features of this unit, but I'll tell you this. One of the big upgrades to this, in addition to the collaboration with Boveda and the design for storing the Bovedas, is these shelves. There's one thing that I've seen in the cigar world. It is so much complaining about these flat shelves, a lot of which has been done by me. I hate flat shelves like this because humidor makers apparently don't realize that cigars are round and they'll just roll right off flat shelves like this. But Newair came to task on this. With a completely new design for these shelves, they decided pegs were a good idea. The only downside is IKEA style, all the pegs have to be installed. And so let me do that before I take you inside. I think it'll be a better look, a better presentation. Well, I just pegged my humidor, and I gotta say, it was a bit of a mixed bag for me. I honestly thought that was gonna be much more tedious and annoying than it was, and it was a bit of a mix of annoying and really kind of exciting. Here's the pros and cons of this new shelf peg system that they've created here. I like the uniqueness of it. I like the idea that like they put these shelves together with way more holes on every shelf than there are pegs. And that became clear to me pretty quickly. I think this comes with 36 pegs and there are many, many more holes than that. So I quickly realized that I wasn't going to be able to peg every hole. By God, who possibly could do that? So I started spacing these out pretty quickly. On the first shelf, I tried like every other one and just doing them on both sides to sort of mimic the idea of, edges along the side of my shelf. But then I thought maybe I could do them even a little bit more spread out. So I went every other and I only used 3 of these on each side. And that seems like it's basically just as efficient as using 4 on each side. The last thing I tried was using 2 pegs on each side, which allowed me to put 4 in the middle. And I gotta say, if a cigar is typically 5 or 6 inches long, it's going to rest pretty well on here. There's a lip on the front of the shelf and a lip on the back. This should sufficiently hold cigars. I'm going to test it out in just a minute here, but I gotta give you my drawback on this. The peg system, well, I like it. I think it's a really good idea. It's not the best executed thing I've ever seen because some of these pegs don't really fit these holes very well. I find that if I like push on it and rotate the peg a little bit, I can get it to go down in the hole. The problem is this. These are kind of flimsy in the middle. These really are just Spanish cedar. It's not even like particle board with Spanish cedar veneer. So I think if you just push on this without being really mindful, you really stand the chance of like breaking one of the shelves. So it's not something you can't get around. If you are careful and you spend your time working each of these pegs into its slot, it's going to work. It's just take your time, be careful, don't be quick, don't be forceful. And the other good news is that below these 4 shelves, there are still 2 more shelves. There's a basket tray right here that looks like it would hold at least 2 stacks of cigars. And underneath that, a little bit shallower but much deeper basket that looks like it would hold like a cabinet style 4 or 5 rows of cigars. You could probably even fit like, I would say more than 2 cabinet boxes of cigars in the bottom of this tray right here. If you, of course, took the cigars out of the boxes and just stacked them in here. As far as like fitting cigars into a humidor, I haven't seen another unit that provides as much shelf space as this one does. So for saying that it holds 500 cigars, I don't know exactly how many cigars you would get in here or should get in here before you're just jamming more cigars into it. But I'll say this, I would stack this up against just about any other unit of this size and expect this one to adequately hold more cigars than almost any of them, and to do it with a little bit of, class, as long as you take your time with those pegs and don't shatter one of the shelves. I also do want to be extra sure to mention this because this has been a pain point for me for a very long time. It's how far open does this door have to be for the shelves to come out? Like if you put this somewhere where there's a wall here, can the door open 90 degrees and then still take the shelf out? And indeed, yes, you can. It's like 90 degrees open. It's going to allow you to pull the shelves out and put them back, which dramatically extends the number of places you can put this thing. If you've got like a small in-home lounge, or it's got to go next to a wall or a couch or something like that, you can't open the door all the way up. That's just such a big deal to me. That's like a big pro. Good job. And now I want to see exactly how many cigars this bad boy holds. So I took one shelf with probably my favorite peg configuration and just put cigars onto it. And, I just got my new daily editions in, so I used some of my Murcielago Echo Hails and some of my Cactus Wren box press and a few EPCs just for good measure. But here with the peg set up, I'm able to create like a few rows of cigars in the front. These I was able to stack too high and still they're not over where the pegs are, so they're not going to fall off. In the back, I was able to get my cigars sort of laying in another direction so they're not just going to roll off. This right here is 44 cigars. And I have not a doubt in my mind that you could configure these shelves so that you could probably hold upwards of 50 cigars on one of these flat shelves with the pegs on it. Now there are 4 of those, which would give you somewhere in the neighborhood of about 200 cigars. In addition to that, the upper basket tray right here, I think this could pretty easily hold another 40 to 50 cigars, maybe 60 if you're really ambitious. And then you'd probably get another 50-ish cigars in the bottom. But all around, I think that you can reasonably store about 250 cigars in this humidor. Now, can you actually put more cigars in here? Yes. There is more space, technically. I personally wouldn't. I would say that this is going to hold about 250 cigars. I think that's why a lot of the humidor makers these days, they measure their humidors by liters rather than by how many cigars it holds, because how many cigars a humidor holds is really a subjective thing. Like, how willing are you to cram cigars into a humidor until there's no possibility of flow of air and humidity? And if you're a wise aficionado, you're not super willing to do that. And so this thing right here, for a unit that holds comfortably 250 cigars, I gotta say, does it in a very, very unique way. So far, the pegs fitting into those little holes is the only real drawback on this thing. Like, there's a couple other little nitpicky things, like the fact that the second row here doesn't nothing really a lot to hold on to. If you pull the tray out really fast, cigars might slide off. So if you're super excited to show your bro about the new Opus that you got, don't break it pulling the drawer out. Now, there are a couple of other little things about this that kind of bug me. This is one that I complain about frequently. The interior light. This does have an interior light that I'm pretty sure is the same light that is the interior dome light of like a 1997 Thunderbird. It doesn't do a great job of illuminating the interior. The thing sits on the top shelf and is heavily blocked by the shelves underneath. Even when there's no cigars on them, put cigars across that top shelf and you're basically lighting the top row of cigars in the humidor and nothing else. I've seen a lot of humidors where they're putting lights on the inside of the door here going up and down. It does a much better job of illuminating the entire inside, but I don't know if Newair is trying to cost balance what they're building here and not make the thing outrageously expensive. The other con that I see to this unit is that there doesn't seem to be anything for reading your humidity. Now, reading your humidity is important because in a humidor, reading your humidity, that's like having a gas gauge on the dashboard of your car. If your gas gauge doesn't work, you drive your car and just hope you don't run out of gas, and that's not a very good way to do it. So you want to know exactly what's going on inside your humidor. For that, you need a digital hygrometer, and this does not have one of those. So in order to accurately measure humidity, that will have to be added to this unit. It's not a huge hiccup, and you'll find a place to put it. I mean, hell, we always do in our humidors. At the same time, this thing does seem to have superior capacity for humidifying cigars. Boveda and humidification packs have become the way to do humidification in the cigar world today. Boveda has created a huge upset. I mean, the distilled water people have got to be furious about this because Boveda works so unbelievably well. And this thing says that it will hold its humidity for somewhere between 3 and 6 months with the Boveda packs that are in there. That means it's going to be a few times a year. You have to go back and adjust the humidity in your humidor, which if you go back to the days of old wooden humidors, it was constant. It was every few weeks or a month you had to mess with the humidity and redial the thing, and they didn't seem to always hold for a super long time. These do. And you'll get more 3 months out of a pack or more 6 months out of the pack, depending on how often you open the thing, where it is in your house. Is it near an exterior wall, a window, a vent, a heater, or something like that? All of those things will impact how long those Boveda packs last. The other features on this are all relatively simple. I mean, this is kind of like boilerplate stuff with these electric humidors. There's a locking button on the front that you press and hold for 3 seconds to unlock the controls. At that point, you can turn the temperature up and down to set it to right where you want it. I put mine at 69 degrees because they wanted 69% packs in there, and it just seemed like the right thing to do anyway. Outside of that, it's a pretty damn simple thing. It's sleek, it's stylish, it's really quite quiet. Like sitting here, I can physically hear that it's on, but not to the point where if anything was going on in the room, I would be able to hear it. And certainly the sound of this won't overpower any other noise in your room. Hell, your kitchen refrigerator is going to be louder than this. Your dishwasher, even if you have a quiet one, is going to be louder than this. It does not make a tremendous amount of noise. So it's quiet, it looks good. And in terms of functionality, the pros with this outweigh the cons by like a lot. I'll say this. In the world of electric humidors, Newair has become like one of the ones you can trust. Like they're like I don't know, I want to compare them to car brands because people are so opinionated, but sort of like the BMW or the Mercedes-Benz of these electric humidors. They make a very good quality humidor. They're not the most affordable thing out there, but they're one of the most functional and practical things out there. This particular unit seems to me to be a little bit more utilitarian, stripping down some of the expensive features to make a humidor that is very good, but also more affordable. The pegs, instead of creating entire shelved trays for every single shelf, not having a digital hygrometer, these are really simple ways to cut down the cost of making one of these things, but still provide you a lot of functionality so you can dice up and set up your cigar collection however you want and humidify it just exactly perfectly. And so there you have it. That's the Newair X Boveda 250 to 500 count humidor and all of the great and terrible things about it. I hope that you'll drop a comment down below if you've had any experience with this humidor or have a friend who used it and mentioned to you that they really liked it for some reason or had some issue with it. Drop your comments down below because the people in the Cigars Daily Nation have so much experience in the cigar world. If you're more curious about this, then you can check it out down there as well. And I want to thank you all so much for watching. Make sure you get a lot more out of this video when you check it out on the community on Cigars Daily Plus and on Rumble. Thanks again for watching. This is Tim signing off for Cigars Daily, and I will see you in the comments.